Assalamu alaikum, everybody. We are
Assalamu
back.
alaikum.
And boy, we have a power-packed program for you tonight. Things are getting better. Things are improving all the time. So we want to make sure we go by the standard practice and procedure here. It's what we do. So you know what we do. Everybody come on into the room. Everybody join on to the comment section of this program. Let us know where you're viewing from.
That's
I
right.
can tell that some people have already got it down pat. My main man is in the room tonight,
Who we
Brother
got? Who we
Harold
got?
B. Muhammad
Hey,
from
hey.
down in Greensboro, North Carolina. He knows what to do. And so we just want to ask that everybody take your place in the room tonight. We have a great discussion, both inspiring and informative for you tonight.
That's right.
One of the nation's best practitioners and scientists. She doesn't claim to be a clinician, but as a frontline fighter for freedom and health for our people, she's always out in the front.
That's right.
Hey, I see there's Denise Lewis, the
Oh,
great birthday girl.
that's
Hey,
my mama.
that's my mother-in-law right there. Yes, indeed. Good to see you. And we also have Camilla Muhammad Harris.
Whoop,
Hey,
whoop.
that's my daughter up in
Hey.
New Jersey. Hey, babe, how you feeling? All right. Anyway, that's how fathers do about their daughter. You know how it is. Anyway, but Camilla's on with us tonight from South Orange, New Jersey, from Denise Renee Muhammad in Houston, Texas. You can see folks are lining up from everywhere. They're always getting in the swing.
Right.
Camilla, don't type Newark, Noork. That's
Newark.
no, you can't.
She spelled it out too.
Newark, New Jersey. Okay. Newark, New Jersey is where she's from tonight. So we want to make sure everybody's on the line.
Sister Katrina's there.
From Phoenix, Arizona, Sister Hassani Muhammad, Attorney Hassani. Our sister Katrina, you know, she's a part of the Nothing But the Truth team in Chicago, and everybody's coming. There's Ashley Friday from Dallas, Texas.
Smaggles.
Good to see. Hey, Smaggles. And so she's on the line. So everybody, you can tell we're a family here. And what we do is get along and we move further along the path of progress for freedom, justice, and equality. We take very seriously the actual charge that we have to use these airways the correct way.
Absolutely.
And so tonight, Teasha's going to give you some information. We'll come back, make a couple of more shout outs, and jump right into our program because we have an action-packed hour for you tonight.
That's right.
Teasha, what should everybody do on the air tonight?
Hey, hey, hey. Welcome back, everybody, for another edition of Nothing But the Truth with Brother Jamil.
And Sister Teasha.
Did y'all notice we're sitting side by side? It's like, it's me, Sister Teasha, and all right. And did y'all notice this?
Right. We pointing and the directions sometimes go wrong. Make us look real flicked. But is flicked a medical term? We'll find out from Dr. Safiyya Shabazz in just a short while. But what do we do tonight? What do we do? How do we make it happen?
Yes. What we ask that you do is help us to grow this platform. And by doing that, all you need to do is go on over to YouTube, find our page, Nothing But the Truth with Brother Jamil.
And Sister Teasha.
Hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and then share it. Share the post, right? And then once you do that, scurry on over to Facebook and look for our page on Facebook. Same name. Nothing But the Truth.
Scurry.
That's like kind of a run, jog, scoot, however you can pull your leg, that. Get over to Facebook, hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and then come on back and enjoy the rest of the show. Okay?
All right. We've got more. I mean, and we're lining up. I'm looking. I see our brother, student minister Mark Muhammad from Springfield, Ohio, is on the line. We had a great time in Springfield just last week.
Yeah, it was great.
And the believers there are on the move. We're happy to say they're doing some great things in Springfield, Ohio. And they'll be doing great things in your city if they're not already doing them. There's our man, Brother Diallo Cork from Cincinnati, Ohio. Can't do anything big without Cincinnati being on board, okay? Is that sort of biased when I said
just
that?
a little, but that's okay. I'll come in right behind you because Bree's on the line too. Hey, Brianna.
Hey, Brianna from Texas.
You know it.
Dallas, Texas. So there are people all over the country coming on, and they're here, Brother Arthur from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. They're here, Sister Angela Jackson Muhammad from Washington, D.C. They're here in order tonight to take part in a very special discussion.
Right.
That discussion is with one of the great minds of our Nation of Islam. And I'm glad to say she's also a great friend to me and to our family and to the believers. And so we're actually moving ahead. No, there's not going to be no singing and rapping.
Yes,
No,
there is.
You're not going to sing
We've
tonight.
only just begun. No?
No, 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 none of that. No,
Go. Go.
no.
Keep going.
All right.
Who do we have tonight?
All right. Tonight we have a very special guest, and she's here for serious business.
Mm.
Okay. She's going to do some serious things.
Mm.
This is Dr. Safiyya Shabazz. She's a fellow of the American Academy of Family Physicians and the owner of Fountain Medical Associates, a primary care medical practice specializing in the care of the whole person from childhood through adulthood. She began her higher education at the University of Pennsylvania when she was just 16 years old.
Wow.
Seems like only yesterday, but she did. And there she obtained a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. And her brief engineering career resulted in two international patents. I want you to hear me now. Two international patents.
Yes.
Okay. before before she returned to the University of Pennsylvania to earn her medical doctorate. She completed an internship in family medicine at Morehouse School of Medicine and residency training at the University of Pennsylvania, where she also served as a member of the clinical faculty.
Hmm.
Dr. Safiyya is the daughter of the late Minister Jeremiah Shabazz,
Beautiful.
affectionately known as the Doc from the top of the clock. She has provided brief, informative commentary on the Holy Quran, the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and scientific evidence to support both on the annual Ramadan prayer line since 2006.
Mm.
That's 16 years of consecutive service on the Ramadan prayer line. She's lectured nationally explaining the link among physical, mental, and spiritual health. And her advice for health and long life is based on eating to live and establishing lasting habits that reduce the risk of death and disease. She's a physician, an entrepreneur, a mother, a wife, a sister, and a teacher who resides at the top of the clock in the great city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Would you join me in welcoming to the program our sister, Dr. Safiyya Shabazz? Dr. Safiyya? All right, all right. Hey,
Make a
walaikum
salam.
salam. Can you hear us all right, Doc?
Yes, sir.
All praise is due to Allah. We pray that we have a great, great, great conversation tonight, and we believe and that it will lead to somebody getting a better chance to live a longer and better quality of life. And that's the reason why we all gather. So, of course, Sister Teasha has many questions that she has lined up. I just want to ask, aside from how you and your family are doing, because it's great. Uh, I'm sorry, the the comment section is wild because
Yes.
Camilla just came in and said, "Oh, Dr. Safiyya, my OG."
My OG.
Okay. That's,
I don't know what she's talking about. I'm 25. She's
no, you're
confused.
not an old head, but anyway. Okay, all right. So Camilla, I see you're feeling rather spry this evening, but we want to make sure that our conversation gets right to the heart of the matter. We are poised on the brink of Ramadan,
Yes.
1443, Ramadan in the year 2022. And we know that as this holy month in the Muslim calendar approaches, Muslims are eagerly awaiting the benefits that accrue to them individually and to us as a community. Have you had a chance to get a new inspiration or a new thought without telling everything that you're going to say on day 3 of the Ramadan prayer line? But what's happening? What's going on this year that makes this Ramadan extra special?
You know, I don't know that there have been times when I have had a thought that I have meditated on for a while before the prayer line. But lately it's like, 11th hour. I'm like the day before, like, hope Allah gives me something good. But one of the things that I've been thinking about kind of goes back to a few years ago when I talked about gaslighting. And I feel like that is the phase that I think I'm feeling right now, like the gaslighting.
Now, tell us, what do you mean by gaslighting? Who's doing it, and how are they doing that?
There's a number of different layers to it. There's actually an article one of my medical colleagues had published in, I think it's called Stat News or something, where she talked about gaslighting of Black medical trainees and how you are many people are made to feel like they don't know what they're doing, kind of turn other people against you, threaten your whole career based on lies, things that are not true. And I'm experiencing that on another level, professionally. But I think like as a nation, as a people, we're all experiencing some level of gaslighting where it's like, wait a minute, I'm not I'm not sure what, like my BS detector, you don't be at the top of the clock and don't develop some level of one.
Some level of that ability. Yes.
I'm not as dumb as I look.
Right.
But so that is one of the thoughts that I've been having, but we'll see where a lot takes me.
Well, that leads us right into the next question. Is there a battle for the minds of the people regarding the issues of personal health and the rights of an individual over his or her body? It's interesting that many of the people who claim the rights over one's own body relative to Roe v. Wade are now the people who are seeking to take away the rights of people's body over your own body when it comes to the vaccinations and other preparations prepared for COVID-19. Let me first welcome into the room before you get to that answer. If I don't do this, we'll both get hurt really bad.
Both will. Yes,
we'll both get hurt. Sister Sheila is in the room with us tonight. Yes. Mr. Dennis's baby girl. Yes. She's in the room with us. Sheila Muhammad. Good to see you, Sister Sheila. And of course, Brother Earl himself, the legend of Philadelphia, our dear brother from the Chess Training Institute there in Philadelphia, and always doing great things. We are grateful that you're here. Shante Gillum Turner's on the line in Northwest Arkansas. So you're reaching everybody tonight, Doc. Is there a battle between two major forces in this hour?
I think there always has been. And, I think that there are different times where, things kind of go on a cycle, the ebb and flow of it, and just seeing, I think, on the one hand, it's a challenge, but on the other hand, I think that you end up having commonalities with people that you might not have thought that you had any with. So that is a potential positive. And also, they say necessity is the mother of invention. And sometimes you need a little pressure in order to, cook something up that you needed anyway.
Yeah. I know I'm grabbing the mic too much. Teasha, just jump in when you get ready. But I have so many things that we've been thinking about how this Ramadan is shaping up. And we've seen the efficacy and effectiveness of the counsel of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I'm not on this show preaching. That's one thing we don't do. We don't get on here. And no, we don't. I don't. No, we don't. We don't preach on this show. But I have to tell you that whether you agree with him or not, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been correct in his guidance to us en masse as a people. There may be individual exceptions in some cases, but I believe that he's correct. And I'm sure that many of you do as well. But my question is not about that. My question is about, as we run into Ramadan, how then do we get the maximum spiritual benefit? I know this may sound odd to ask a physician a spiritual question, but I'm speaking now to Minister Safiyya Shabazz, because I know that you have that qualification and training as well. Spiritually, what do you see?
I know it's funny because I don't necessarily like to accept that qualification because I don't feel qualified in that arena. So, I try to stay in my lane, which is more medical, even though when one of the things that I think kind of led to me being able to contribute in the way that I do with the prayer line is when you go into reading the Holy Quran with the teachings, or if you go into studying medicine with the teachings, you see so many things that you might not have noticed. So, I mean, for me, I really think about the wisdom of the process of Ramadan and how it really, just particularly during the pandemic, like how we have been prepared as a religious community of Muslims in general, but as believers under the eternal leadership of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in dietary practice that literally is life preserving and life saving. And when I kind of came up under that training. Oh, we eat one meal a day, and certain things we do or don't eat. But I had not necessarily read How to Eat to Live. And when I did take the time to actually read it, I said, it's interesting. We always kind of get off on different tangents about the finer points about what type of bread and whether we eat quick bread and not, and what's corn in the milk stage and this and that and the other and other nuances. But the main point is to fast every day. And the promise that was made is that we would live longer. And when I realized that was the main point and set out to look into it from a scientific standpoint, and found that that really is the only consistent thing that has been studied, oddly enough, since 1934, I believe, were the first studies of, really, they started with caloric restriction, not necessarily fasting, but to restrict the intake significantly, and how all they've done so many different variations of these studies. And when they started to evolve the science, where they really got to the fasting part of it and the intermittent fasting and how significant that is. And now, even when I went back to refresh, where the current literature is for another presentation, even the nuance of the 4 to 6 p.m. and how that adds another level of benefit in terms of our circadian clocks and all of these things, which, some of that is slightly different during Ramadan, depending on where you are. The sun might not go down until 8 o'clock where you are, but all of that has a physical benefit. And from my standpoint, your body is the temple, your brain is command central. Right. And you don't have a spiritual being without a physical place to reside. Or, that's our teachings. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to live somewhere. And, it's difficult for people to be as spiritually evolved as they think they are when your body is not really tuned up the way it should be. And so our Savior, the first thing that he gave us, the first thing he taught us wasn't prayer, right? It was how to eat, how to not die, how to be healthy. And that is the basis of being spiritually evolved. So I guess I wasn't preaching.
No. Well, we have the no preaching rule doesn't apply to you. I mean, you could.
That was teaching.
That was teaching instead. But Teasha, you had something you wanted to add?
I have a question. So some of our guests are not, in the nation, and so they may not understand the full aspects of what fasting is or what it does. Because sometimes, me included, we would think fasting was just, I'm just not going to eat this, or I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to eat bread for this amount of time. We don't really know what really intermittent fasting is. But could you speak on just really quick, what fasting really define what it is? Because I think there's different types of fasting. And then just touch a little bit on what actually happens to the body when you're fasting. Because I know when I first, and I'm asking this because when I first started trying to fast, I would get to that point where I just swore I was going to die if I didn't eat something. But if I push past it just a little bit more, then it's like an ease came over. Right. But sometimes you get right to that point where you're like, I just can't go another step or I'm going to faint. And you're really not. Can you explain what's happening at that time?
Well, interestingly, as far as I know, and someone can correct me, I believe that every religious tradition has some type of fasting ritual. We're not the only people who fast.
Right.
And I guess could get the fact checkers to see what the actual definition of fasting is. But the fast of that we talk about in scientific literature means no calories, no calories going in. So yes, can some people do a water fast? And, typically when it's not Ramadan, when we're fasting, we may be taking in water or coffee or whatever. But a fast, as far as your body is concerned, we don't pass whole cheeseburgers, through the membrane of our stomach into our bloodstream. It's the calories, the glucose, the proteins, all of that. So it means none of that. So water, from a scientific standpoint, that's fasting, taking in water. That's not the fast of Ramadan. But like if you have coffee, but there's nothing in it, or tea, but there's nothing in it. So you may have people who they say, well, I do fast all the time, but they have, sweetened drink throughout the day, or coffee or tea or whatever it is. Your body really never had a chance to realize that there theoretically was nothing coming in.
Okay.
So that's, if you want the benefits as far as the research, then you would have to like cut it off, like all the way off.
Calorie. Okay. No calorie.
All right. And out of respect for what you said earlier, Doc, we definitely do understand that you may not claim to be qualified as a spiritual teacher in the way of Islam, but I have to tell you that one of the chief qualifiers to do that is to understand that you are not qualified to do that. It is the humbleness of spirit that allows you to see, in my opinion, that allows you to see the witnesses to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as you study the science that you are being trained in as an actual physician, as a doctor, as a healer, as a practitioner of the medical science. And so this is excellent for us to understand that we have a way to look in and see. It reminded me of something that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said that to be acquainted with the science of medicine or mathematics or music or the science of the rainbow, that would give one an extra insight, an added insight to Islam. Have you ever heard that statement by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, or have you seen a witness of it?
I have heard components of it, maybe not, exactly the way you phrased it, but I have heard that in terms of those who study medicine or music. I think the rainbow was new to me, but yes, sir. And I feel like I having the teachings first was very helpful to me as I went through the process, where I can see how someone else would notice things as they came upon it, when you're learning, whether that was, in my undergraduate career in engineering, which is applied mathematics, and, moving forward through the medical realm. But so much of it, you see it all come together, and that's what excites me. That gives me an extra pep in my step, and energy and excitement. In fact, even with the Ramadan prayer line, those grew really out of casual conversations with Sister Jill, now Sister Muthakra, where I would just be talking about different things, and she's like, "No, remember, what you said about whatever," and I wouldn't even really think that much of it, because there would be things that I would just mention in casual conversation that I would come across. So for instance, I was reading about how in people who had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and how they looked at people who were getting traditional treatments for breast cancer, chemotherapy, things of that nature. And they studied women who fasted while they were being treated, and how it enhanced their response to treatment for breast cancer. And I'm like, wow, like this is amazing, because there might be many people who would say, oh well, I can't fast because I have a certain illness. But there may be certain illnesses where you actually might be better off if you did fast. It might help you with that problem, like diabetes, or there are a number of conditions. And I was recently looking at something, I can't even remember where it was published, but people always say, oh well, you won't be able to think very clearly if you're fasting, if you don't have the most important meal of the day, which is breakfast, which I believe that was invented by the
Kellogg company
industry. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
that
correct.
was invented by them. It's a marketing ploy. And
Wow.
similar. And I think some of our friends were mad at me when I kind of went live the other day talking about wine, but again, it's a marketing ploy. They like market it as a health tonic.
Right.
And so
Right.
then people kind of like go with it, but it's just marketing. It's marketing. Breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. In fact, if you skip breakfast, that is probably better for you. Now, maybe that's not necessarily true of children who are growing, etc. And there's some nuances there. Like it depends on what your goals are. Like if your goals are to lose weight and you're going to lose control by 12 o'clock, then, maybe you're not ready for that stage or phase. But, even when they look at the whole IF literature, to have a feeding window, in the nation, we're talking about 22 hours of fasting and 2 hours of feeding, which is pretty extreme. But they're talking about, a 16 and 8, where you're eating to eat for 8 hours is all day. That's all day long. Or ideally, I think the shortest that I've really seen, most people will typically have like a 4 to 6 hour feeding period and fasting the other time. And how they really have demonstrated so many different health benefits. And it's difficult to show, like to actually prove the promise that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad made in terms of it making a human live longer, because you'd have to like start it early and watch someone for, a lot of years. But I mean, even I was fascinated studying with my daughter the monarch butterfly.
Wow.
And do you know anything about the monarch butterfly?
No. Tell us.
Okay, so here's the short of it. Every year, there's 4 generations of monarch butterfly that are produced. Okay. 3 generations, they have an average lifespan of 2 to 6 weeks. But then that 4th generation, they are going to need to make the 5,000-mile migration to, certain parts of Mexico. And so that generation of monarch butterfly has a 9-month lifespan.
Okay.
Now, how it happens is because as the seasons change and the nectar is less available, the butterfly starts, going into a caloric restriction phase. I don't know about the fasting, but they definitely get forced into caloric restriction. That turns on survival genes, and that group of butterflies can make the 5,000-mile trip and last 9 months to go to Mexico and do what they need.
But
to
the
do.
first 3 generations cannot, because they're eating abundantly from the foliage that's around them.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. That is amazing. It's amazing.
Wow. So, that's like so much, I guess so many metaphors. We can really go deep with that in terms of like us needing to be able to make the trip. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you going to be here to even enjoy, the hereafter and all of these sciencing it up things? Like, first thing you got to do is not die.
That's the first thing. That's the first order of business. We want to welcome Sister Mutakara. She is on the line with us from Memphis, Tennessee. Our own Jilly from North Philly. She's back with us on the line, and we're very, very grateful to have you, sister.
These are like my other mothers, by the way. I don't know if everybody knows that. Like my mother, unfortunately, Sister Andrea, I lost her when I was 17 years old. She didn't make it to her 41st birthday. But these have been my mothers.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And you've made your community very, very proud. Let me also ask, if you don't mind, is there a continuum for you we hear you talk about these concepts, which may seem matter of fact to others who believe them, but trust me, they're revolutionary in the marketplace of ideas. The things that you do on a regular basis. Have you thought of the kind of mentoring or the kind of development of others coming behind you that you would like to do? Not that you are an old head or an OG, but is it something that you would like to do, and how would you see that being set up?
Well, now you open a window for me to like give a personal uh, praise moment and
Yes.
testimonial that really felt great to me because I know that Sister Naira, I don't know, sometimes I offend her. I remember when she first came to shadow me when I was still working at the University of Penn. She I think she was only 12 years old, and you know I like kind of I didn't do too much asking for permission, but nobody threw her out of there or anything. But I would ask the patients, could she come in the room? And um, she was so young and she wasn't really ready to do any shadowing, but she was there. And
Yes.
I laughed because I remember, you come in the room with me, you're gonna have to pay attention.
Oh my, yes.
And now
this
to
this
see
was
her
in Philly though. Was that in
this
Philadelphia?
was in Philly.
Okay.
And then just be able to watch by degrees, different levels where she had graduated from college. And I don't know, she might have been out of college at 17. I went when I was 16. She might have been out of college when she was 17. I might be getting that math wrong, but just to see the progression and the level of maturity. And then when she left to study medicine in Cuba, and she came back on a rotation. Like, I've had a chance to observe at various stages and levels, and just to watch her development, and now see her, getting ready to, pass another hurdle. People don't know all the stuff we go through as physicians, like medical doctors, DOs, where yeah, she was already a doctor, but you can't practice medicine in the United States without going through a residency training program, and they don't just give them out. And guess what? It's not enough to go around. So
Right.
you have to match into a training program. And to see that she matched to her first choice, and she has aspirations to become a cardiologist, which at some point I said I want to be a cardiologist and changed my mind several times. But it's really beautiful to watch that. And to even with brother Mustafa's daughter, Sister Rakaya. But we need so much more help. Like, we need armies of believers going into medical school. And and I know there are different ways of practicing healthcare, but we do need some actual straight up medical doctors, like
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
with all like that know how to play, like Sister Ruthacra told me, the high class joints and the honky tonks. Like, we need it
Right.
all.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Gotta
You
play
need
them
something
both.
sliced up. I'm not
That's
the
right.
one to call if you need something sliced and diced. But you need some people that do that. We need some people in primary care. I really think that over the last 2 years, part of why, my view of I don't even want to go too far in this direction, but like treating COVID and what my experience has been is because these are people who have access to primary care. They have a relationship with me. They have a way to get some type of advice or early intervention. So we need all of those different layers, and we need them yesterday. So
The urgency.
the urgency. Now, you can't just cook them up like that, but that's how soon we need them.
Yes, ma'am. And so that kind of mentorship with a view of the big picture, not just I'm going to take one person and help you become a medical doctor so you can enjoy prestige and high income and blah, 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 blah. But no, the need of our people is what I hear you talking about. I need Teasha, you heard that too, right? The need of our people. The other thing I think is essential, and I have to take the prerogative of the chair here to say this, and I say it every time I get an opportunity. I might not be sitting here if it weren't for Dr. Shabazz, who, as my primary care physician, gave me advice that I didn't always take. One time I had a cough and I was coughing blood, and she told me to go to the hospital and get seen. I figure I'll go tomorrow after the mosque meeting. I got to teach at the mosque in Philadelphia. I'll go. So I'm up at Brother Errol's house, relaxing. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, coughing again, more blood. And then I waited again. Let me lay down. I called her at about 6:30 in the morning. I say, Doc, I'm coughing. She said, where are you, at the hospital? I said, no, ma'am, I'm at Brother Earl. She said, but didn't I tell you to go to the hospital yesterday? I said, yes, ma'am, you did, but she said, forget about it. Brother Amin will be there in 15 minutes to pick you up, and he'll take you to the hospital. I said, what about the mosque meeting? She hung up on me.
Yeah.
And then I went to the hospital. When I got to the door, they said, Dr. Shabazz told us to expect you, bring him immediately into surgery. I had to have emergency surgery to repair a torn esophagus, which theoretically could have drowned me in my own blood, or something really grisly could have happened. Yeah. But I'm here to bother all of you and to get in your faces and tell you that this is the hour for us to unite and support our physicians, our professionals, our healers, like Dr. Safiyya Shabazz. It's very, beautiful. Very, very, very
Praise
important.
be to Allah. I don't even remember all of the details. Nobody would need to tell me to go to the hospital if I start coughing. Like, I don't think.
Twice.
Okay. Yeah, twice. Yeah. Okay. Now we're at the bottom of the hour. Yes. You know what we do at the bottom. Sheila, I can read your comments, Sheila. Calling me a hard.
The rest she said silently, loudly in her head.
Yes, and I know the rest of it too. That's my sister. But I want to encourage everybody. We'll be back after these messages, but stay tuned. We're with Dr. Safiyya Shabazz on Nothing But the Truth with
Brother Jamil and
Sister Teasha. Stay tuned.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Brother Vaughn Muhammad of the Rockwell Radio Show. For years, I've been hearing the same thing from a lot of people. Brother Vaughn and DJ Rockwell are completely two different people. So I came up with a way to separate the both of us, and perhaps we can get along better if we try it this way. Introducing DJ Rockwell. What we're going to try to do is do this together and not get on one another's nerves. Every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, check out your brother Vaughn Muhammad and this guy, DJ Rockwell.
That's on Saturday nights at 7. You don't want to miss that. And for you hip hop heads, you understand what it's about. You know what it is, and we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to tune in on Saturday nights. We're going to get right back to the questioning. I do want to encourage you, by the way, before we get back to Sister Teasha, who has a very important question of her own. Please feel free to comment your question in the comment section of this conversation. Every week, we're looking to expand our technical capability so that you can interact with our guests, and tonight is no exception. Please feel free to ask your question in the comment sections.
Absolutely.
Sister Teasha?
All right, thank you. So before we went to the bottom of the hour break, we talked about the urgency and the need for more doctors, more people to come in and become doctors. What are you seeing as or if you're seeing anything, what is the urgency that you're seeing right now that needs to be addressed with our people, with the community so far? Is there a certain area that you're finding that we need to address more and more?
I think a lot of it is basic. I mean, it's basic primary care. I mean, we have a lot of times, because of our experiences dealing with the healthcare field, and honestly, a lot of the environment right now I believe is exacerbating that, where people already have their skepticism and hangups, and it can become where they don't even want to deal with the whole field. Of course, there's the things even before you interact with the medical community, like Sister Sheila is saying, the diet and exercise and all of that. Those are basic things. But a lot of times you might have done the right thing, but it could be problems that really didn't even start with you. It could have started with your parents or even your grandparents, as we learn more about how, this field called epigenetics can explain how certain environmental factors can affect not just you, but your children and your children's children. So, our environments, our diet, our exercise habits, our stressful lifestyles. And then on top of all of that, our hesitation or lack of access to culturally sensitive primary care.
Ooh.
And so then we might delay getting care when, to me, people should not need to die of diabetes complications, but we do. People should not need to have cancers diagnosed late that could have otherwise been treated early. Cervical cancer, for instance, that really it is kind of a rare disease, but when it happens, people were not in the loop of just routine checks and screenings and things like that. Colon cancer is another example. So, we know our foundation is our diet, lifestyle, exercise, how to eat to live, and restrictive law will get you most of the way there. But there's a lot that we, isn't going to cover those cases. And, like in any case not covered, but you got to call the guards. So we're the guards in that situation to kind of make sure things are identified early and checked on. And, I've had people who were so resistant, or I don't know if it's being afraid of just getting regular medical care. I've had more than one patient who chose to let the chips fall where they may and not take advantage of modern treatment, which many of our people sacrifice their lives to advance medical science, but then we're not taking advantage of some of that medical science to treat our cancer. That's painful to me, for someone to, die of cancer without having even tried some of the basic treatments for those cancers. I don't like to see that. And there's a lot of circumstances like that. We can't change everything. We can't control everything, but there's a lot that could be different,
You talk about the irony, Dr. Shabazz, of the whole cancer research continuum that was kicked off by the theft of the cervical cancer cells of Henrietta Lacks at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. And now many of our women are dying from untreated cervical cancer because of the lack of access to or understanding of the healthcare apparatus in this country in the best possible way. Let me skip down to a couple of questions. We'll come right back to Teasha. I'm going to give you three of them, and if you can address them, because some of them are pretty simple. From Brother Richard 7X, he asked the question, Assalamu alaikum, Sister Dr. Safiyya, are you accepting new patients or telehealth visits from people outside of Philadelphia? That's one question. Bruh D, because I don't want to say brother when it's bruh D Muhammad says there is a Dr. William Lee who is becoming well known for using food to address disease. He has a book called The Science of How the Body Heals Itself. He bears witness to much of what How to Eat to Live teaches us. I was wondering if Dr. Shabazz is familiar with him. Again, modern Western science, just learning what the Savior told us in 1930. And the last question I'll ask you is from Sister Mutakara herself. Would you explain your idea for a new and better healthcare delivery system? That's the biggest question for last.
Okay, so am I accepting new patients? I am and I'm not, because I'm in the middle of a transition phase. And so, as we work out, what I realize is that I'm only one person, which is why I'm like, okay, we need more people, like as soon as we can get them, because I can only do what I do the way that I do it, at a certain pace where I become the rate limiting steps. rate limiting step. And this does tie to my idea, which, I haven't worked out the implementation of it, but the idea that if we have a certain workforce, medical workforce, that and we're licensed multiple places, what I learned through the pandemic, and I was kind of into it before the pandemic came in, but like just to see things really accelerated forward, is the use of telemedicine and remote care and being able to access people wherever they are. Does it cover every circumstance? No, it's not going to cover every circumstance, but I can certainly treat people's high blood pressure without, touching them most of the time, or diabetes or depression or, obesity or, different things where a lot of what needs to be done, I found that I was able to keep doing that without laying hands on people. And as technology advances, then there are going to be an increasing amount of tools available at the consumer level. Consumer meaning, you might have it in your home. So someone gave me a very nice gift. It's an electronic stethoscope. It can do like a single lead EKG. I love it.
Wow.
The problem is, it really would be better if like I didn't have it, but like the patient had it at their house to use when it's time to be evaluated, because I have a stethoscope. I can listen if you're right here in front of me. So that is the basis of the idea, to take what we have. I know the minister kind of gave me a charge back in, I guess, was that 2013? That had to be 20. Now I'm losing track of time.
That's okay.
What was the 16th anniversary of the Million Man? That had to be 2011, right?
Yes.
Of the Million Man March, when it was in Philadelphia.
Mhm.
And he said that, my little office that I started, it was cute. But what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted was a hospital, a Muslim hospital. And I want that too, but like exactly what that is, I think will need to be different in this century and in the future, because we are widely dispersed.
Yes.
A physical brick and mortar hospital is still going to have a lot of limitations about how many of us can be served by it. So really trying to figure out how to take advantage of technology to expand at least basic healthcare services to reach our people wherever they are. That is the basis of my idea that I've had for a while. Dr. William Lee, no, I'm not particularly familiar with him, but if he is bearing witness to the teachings, then, I think that that's a beautiful thing. But to me, it only reinforces. And some people, I've been criticized by some people of like, oh, the teachings don't need a white man's verifications and things like that. But I thought we were, a show and prove culture.
Yes.
So if something is true, then it should stand the test of time and it should hold up to research. And people, if something is true, then yes, multiple people are going to come to the same conclusion with time because it's true. So the first person to say the earth is spherical, I think he made us stoned to death or something like that.
Right. The new concepts, very difficult, right?
Right. So, these are things that, yes, it might be radical and it challenges the current standard of thought. But if something is true and then people start looking into it, then after a while, you're not going to be able to deny something that is obviously true. So
yeah, that's it. And Dr. Shabazz and everybody, let me remind you, you are listening to Dr. Safiyya Shabazz on Nothing But the Truth with Brother Jamil and
Sister Teasha.
And we are here tonight. I mean, I know that we're under the same difficulty that we struggle with from time to time. I hope that we were able to get the tech team a couple of pizzas or some sandwich.
He eats well.
Something,
He likes pizza.
I mean, no, not pizza. No, not pizza tonight. Because
I know she don't know the rules. Really,
He loves salad.
Yeah, no, the tech team, not us, but the tech team. We got to keep on because we may have to ask for some extra time, just a little bit of extra time tonight, if Dr. Shabazz would grant it to us, because the comment section is pouring over with comments and questions and verifications of the truth that we are hearing tonight. Remember, we're poised on the brink of Ramadan. If I could recap before we go into this last quarter of our program, or maybe last half hour, but we know that we're going into Ramadan.
Right.
We do know that science has shown that caloric restriction is beneficial to human health. Science has shown that intermittent fasting, as they call it, is beneficial to human health. Science has shown that the specifics of eating between 4 and 6 p.m. are even have a dynamite positive effect on our circadian rhythms. We've seen tonight that the science of this world bears witness, as we knew that it would, to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I love what Sister Teasha was asking before. Where do we need the help the most? You know, where do we need it the most? And your answer, Dr. Shabazz, again, helps my understanding to grow higher. Healthcare will look different in the future, right?
Right.
Yes, sir.
No, and as Dr. Shabazz was talking, you know, sometimes it looks like I'm just staring into space, but my mind is just going. And I'm thinking about these past few years with the coronavirus, how healthcare is available, but it wasn't available because you really couldn't get to it as freely. And I know some doctor's appointments that I've had or family members have had kept getting rescheduled. And it's not because of it's the doctor's fault. We were in a pandemic. So it's important when I'm listening to you talking that we individually have to take on more ownership and more responsibility for our own health. We need to learn our bodies. We need to know what's going on in our bodies, because sometimes we just go to the doctor and let them tell us whatever, and they give us something to follow up on, and we don't do what they said to do. And then our conditions get worse and worse and worse, but we're not tuned in enough to ourselves to notice, oh, there's a change, or this is happening when I do this or when I don't do that, until it's too late. And then it's a big problem. And you find yourself in a pandemic, you can't get to the doctor.
Right.
So do you have the necessary...
Even when it comes to something simple like dental health, right?
Okay.
I'm going to make a couple more enemies where I'm always fascinated where, as vain as most people are, I'm always curious when you're talking to someone, I'm like, you couldn't see that right in the front. Like, like you but I can see it where, certain things you put off and you defer. And then, like, can you imagine how painful it is when you have a dental problem and you can't get right to a dentist to attend to it? Like, you're ready to rip the tooth out yourself when you have those kind of problems. So, there's a lot of different layers to that, but yeah, like we do have to have personal responsibility. My first reactions, when the pandemic came in and we started to understand the types of things that made people more at risk of dying, was like, wow, praise be to Allah. Like, all of this time we were supposed to be preparing ourselves physically. We and I don't have like the actual statistics. I'm not privy to like what the actual numbers are, but I have to believe that, if we try, we're not perfect at it, but we try that if we were more perfect in our adherence to some of the things that we already know, we really should see a difference in the amount of mortality and morbidity. That means how many people died or were severely injured by the pandemic. There should be like a really noticeable difference between us and, our peers, if we are doing what we're supposed to do. So, nobody is doing everything perfect. We all have different elements that we need to improve on. But, I've just in different self-help type things that I've looked at, you have to be ready to accept 100% responsibility for anything that happens to you. And you know what I mean? Like, not that it's your fault, but you still have to be willing to accept responsibility, because there's some level where if it's your life, either you're a victim, or you have some level of, power and influence over your situation. And, I get a little fresh with my mouth sometimes where sometimes I might be talking to patients and they're giving me all the reasons why they can't do this and they can't do that. And anything that I'm like, okay, listen, either you're saying that you're doing everything perfectly, so you don't need to change, or there's absolutely nothing you could do. And like, and I've stopped in the middle of these conversations sometimes. I'm like, okay, so we calling an undertaker or what?
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Right.
what we doing?
Yeah.
If you're trying to live, then all right, I understand all the things you've tried and that didn't work. So either you accept the fact that nothing's going to work and you may as well go ahead and prepay and get a deal on your grave site.
Right.
Or get out a spoon and start shoveling. Like, what we doing? Like, come on, we have to take control for whatever we can control. There's certain things you can't control, but I mean,
you can.
I'm not ready to just give up like that. You know what I mean?
I don't know if that's getting fresh. I don't know if that's getting a little fresh with the mind. I believe it's almost like a person who sees another person about to be hit or run over by the bus. When you don't have time to explain to them all the nuances of why they don't want chrome sticking up between their spleen and their diaphragm, right? So you have to say to them, get out the way, and sometimes you got to push them. You have to holler at them. You may have to push them out of the way of harm. And I believe that this is something that you have to have. And Sister Muthaka says, candor courtesy of Jeremiah and Andrea Shabazz, which is pretty much true, right?
It's funny because sometimes I look at my children, I'm like, you would have never survived. You grew up in a household I grew up in. You would have never survived. One, you would have had a black eye like 10 times a day. And two, your feelings would have had to be a little bit more, less sensitive. But, I'm even learning because, that's one of the things when, and I didn't necessarily learn all of the things when we were studying with the Scientology people, but there's a lot of wisdom in their observations of human behavior and things like that, where I'm learning that sometimes you have to let people be right enough where they have room to let you be right. So I'm working on that. Like, if you try to explain to people that they're wrong, it doesn't necessarily work. And the way my husband put it is like, oh, everybody needs sales skills, which is true. Like, I need to learn how to sell my patients on, how to not die. I gotta sell it. So okay, I'm great. I'm glad to see my cousin Stacy in the house.
Hey, Stacy, welcome. And the great Philadelphia linchpin, one of the foundational brothers in the rebuilding of the Nation of Islam in Philadelphia, our great brother Marvin X. Turner is with us tonight. Certainly, we're glad to see you, sir. 105 forever. And that tough love that Brother Harold is talking about is because Dr. Shabazz, as Sister Sheila says, was raised by the No Filter crew.
Yes.
The No Filter crew. And that No Filter crew was not rudeness or savagery. It was a direct, responsible relationship with truth. Your father, Dr. Shabazz, as one of my great mentors in the ministry work that I'm striving to do, he didn't cut corners with me. He told me directly what I needed to know, and then I was made better by that. He told me how to run an organization of a mosque, especially in the city of Philadelphia, and it works. And so we have to learn to listen to those who are telling us what to do. When my wife asked you the question earlier, and I think it was a wise question that you asked, Teasha, you were talking about the urgency of specific areas where healthcare is needed in our communities. I think that's everywhere, and I think it's in every subject, and everybody needs it to some degree or another. But Dr. Shabazz, tell us a little bit about the future of Fountain Medical. What's going to happen with Fountain? Where are you guys going? What are you thinking about the development of your practice and how you'll deliver services to the community, both in Germantown, Mount Airy, the city of Philadelphia, and everywhere? How's that going to happen?
Well, right now, that's, part of the transition that we're in, where I am kind of moving into a space that is sort of like a little Robin Hood-ish, where I've decided, I have practiced independently for the last 12 years, but it really is not all the way independent. I mean, obviously we practice within the limits of the law, but then we have, something called a third party system where, you have insurance companies that you're dealing with. They dictate what you can do, what you can't do, what medicines you could prescribe, how many people you have to force get vaccines, even if they don't want them, where children are getting thrown out of medical practices and not having access to medical care, if their family makes that choice, and different things where I say, I am going to back away from at least the commercial health insurance game and start to contract directly with patients for their medical care. Right now, I've decided to still continue with my Medicaid population. So those are people who, get government assistance to get medical care, and my seniors who use Medicare to get their medical care. But, the people in the middle, I know it can be a strain, but, I have decided I'm only one person. I practice the way I practice. I don't do it on a, factory type setup. Right. And so that is one of the changes. And I also, did get licensed in numerous states. My thought process behind that really was very specific around the pandemic, because the believers needed to have access to medical care in various places. And so I wanted to address that the best I could. I mean, I'm not licensed to practice in all 50 states, but just, being able to have a little bit more latitude about where I'm able to care for people, whether they're in Illinois or New Jersey or New York or where else? Virginia. And, there's different things, where I want to do it. There's only 24 hours in a day, and I'm trying to solve that math problem. But that is, some outside forces did kind of push me a little bit farther, more accelerated than I had planned in terms of what we call direct primary care. And so, those people who are in any of those states that I mentioned that might be interested in contracting directly with me as their physician. And really, it's not just me, because we're a medical practice where it's me and Sister Valeria Muhammad, who's a nurse practitioner. And we work together to care for the patients. Sometimes, it could be tough where the patients are like, well, I want to see Dr. Shabazz. Like, who is you? Right. and then there's some people who are like, I'm like, okay, well, brother so-and-so don't like seeing me no more. Where, everybody has their different preference. And because she has such a long career as a nurse, she might have just some different little mannerisms and things that patients appreciate more than they do about me. And I noticed someone is mentioning about North Carolina. And right now, I'm not licensed in North Carolina. They have something called the Interstate Medical Licensing Compact. And I was trying to kind of work that angle. I ended up paying a whole lot of money trying to do that, where Pennsylvania is not one of the states, where I reside, is not one of the states where you can kind of pay to make it easier to just turn on a bunch of licenses like a light switch all at one time. But North Carolina is not currently on the list. But inshallah, it's only time between where we need to be and where we are right now. So I think I actually had a brother from North Carolina, either North Carolina, I can't remember where the brother lives. He took a plane, came to Philly. And once, if you establish yourself as a patient in the city, different states have different rules, where if you establish in person, then sometimes you could do follow-ups in, from your home, like a telehealth visit, because we have an established relationship that's, face-to-face in the state. But a lot of that is changing, because we just realized over time it didn't really make a lot of sense. Yes. Where, the lines don't cut off. So you would have people at rest stops, doing their telehealth visit, across the bridge somewhere, because that's where their doctor was licensed. But, a lot of it is a money game, where we got computers. Anything they could check, they can check it pretty much from wherever you are. I mean, but everybody has to get their little fees and things like that. I think New York, that fee was $700 or something like that to get licensed in New York.
Leave it to New York. Leave it to New York. But I have to tell you, this kind of discussion is the thing that we're committed to, Dr. Shabazz. That's why we're so grateful to you for coming to be with us tonight on Nothing But the Truth with Brother Jamil and Sister Teasha, because you've got a wealth of information that's not just interesting to know, it's vital to get. And the vitality of this information, I hope, will not be lost on any of our listeners and viewers. I'm sure it won't be, because this is the most intelligent audience in all of media. So we know that you all understand and you're relating to what we're hearing tonight. We do have to begin wrapping up. I'm going to ask if my wife has any other questions. We're going to get a final statement from Dr. Shabazz and some instructions from Sister Teasha. Then we're going to watch the credit sequence, because I get your emails. You love the credit sequence. You're like, I want to hear that tune again. I want to see those pictures. I want to hear that groovy thing. Okay, so we'll let you do the groovy thing. Special thanks also, while we're here, for last week's guest, brother, another Philadelphian and a legend in Philadelphia, the great Ron Wilch, who was on our air last week. And I mean, Teasha, we got calls all week. From Ron Wilch and his folks. Can y'all make me a suit? I mean, I ate a little extra pasta, but can y'all hook up a suit or something?
I watched it. I was like, oh, functional buttons. What's
that?
But Ron thought I was
mohair. I never heard of it.
No, Safiyya, he thought I was some like OCD or something. Like, what function? But when I explained it to him, he said, okay, that makes sense. And all my suits have functional buttonholes, and that's just, I'm not OCD at all. All right. So I want to just say that to you all. But brothers and sisters, we're going to wrap up now. Teasha, is there anything else that you want to ask to Dr. Shabazz while we have her? We'll get to the business and then we'll wrap up.
I just want to thank you so much for coming on to the show and just sharing your knowledge with us and with our audience. This show, it's just been awesome to me. It really hit home for me. I'm sitting here just fighting back tears, because I'm with a bit of transparency going back down memory lane, and thinking about some of the relationships I had with my doctor. I was diagnosed with the what do they call it? A chronic disease, a debilitating disease as it progresses on. But thank Allah, I haven't had any relapses.
That's right.
In years.
That's right.
Years. But when I was first diagnosed in 2015, 2010, 15. I fought against that diagnosis. It's MS. I was diagnosed with MS. I don't have MS. Clearly having relapses, but I'm like, no, I don't have MS. I just would not accept. But the first doctor that I have, we didn't have a good rapport. Right. He didn't listen to me. He didn't feel me, right? And so I searched and found a doctor who took the time to understand me and explain what it is that they're trying to tell me that I had. But it took her 2 years. Wow. 2 years, and she never gave up on me to convince me to follow the treatment therapy that she was recommending. But I fought and fought.
And that's another one, the fasting. That works for that.
But what I learned is you have to build, it was 2010. Thank you, Ashley. That's my daughter. You have to build a rapport with your doctor, and you have to find a doctor who really cares for you. And I can hear that you care. I care for everybody on this platform, and it's so important to me that we understand that you have to learn your body. You have to listen to your body. I mean, the doctor's going to tell you what they tell you and what they see on these tests and what they study, but you have to know your body, right? And she told me that too. She said, I can tell you what I see on that scan, what I hear, but only you know what you're feeling. I can give you this guideline, but I went through the whole thing. No, I'm just taking herbs. I'm just going to drink raw milk. And she was like, I don't care if you bathe in the raw milk, Teasha. You need to take this. And when she said that, I was like,
right.
So I'm going to try bathing in it, because I'm not taking that.
Right. And that's why I tell people, like, listen, you can't walk around here like that. I don't care if you do a rain dance, get acupuncture.
She told me that.
I don't care how the problem goes away, but what's the deadline?
And she's from Philly.
If you still had this problem, then you're gonna have to do something else. Like, come on now.
Yeah. But one time when I went back to see her, it was after relapse. Like, I was at work, clearly saw the wall, walking towards a doorway, and walked into it. My peripheral was off. And so I told her, so she was like, so how's the raw milk working for you? I was like, give me my treatment. But anyway,
No, I think it may have been missed though, Teasha. Could you say again, where was your doctor from?
she was from Philly.
She's from Philadelphia. Okay.
And she was just straight raw with me, but I loved
Dr.
her.
O, yeah.
Yeah, we had a great rapport, but she's the one who taught me how important it is to take ownership for your own health, right? Mm-hmm. So after she got me straight and on point, no more relapses, because I learned what my triggers were.
Right.
And then I went the opposite way.
Plus you up here getting all this good love, and girl.
I think I feel a relapse coming on.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
But anyway, my point is you have to be your own best advocate and work with your doctor. Find a doctor who cares, like Dr. Shabazz, and be your best advocate for yourself. You can do it. I'm not even on any medications. That's a whole nother story. Lost my insurance, and you get treated a whole certain way with no insurance. So I had to.
You need to find you a direct primary care doctor.
Yeah. Do you know a good direct primary care doctor that we can contact? Maybe in southeastern Pennsylvania. Maybe, I don't know. We'll talk it out.
Anyway,
but this is the kind of thing, and thank you, Teasha, for that kind of transparency and disclosure. You didn't have to tell that, but you did that because of the same reason.
Nothing to hide.
Because you connected with Dr. Shabazz, and she does the same thing.
Right.
You are sharers of the empathetic spirit of healing. Yep. And I leave you all with one thing, and that is that there is a science of medicine. That's true. But there's also an art of healing.
Come on.
The art of healing is something in which Dr. Shabazz is greatly skilled.
Yes.
Because she doesn't just employ the science of medicine, but she understands who she's working with and creates relationships. And it is those relationships that, as Sister Mutakara said in the comment section, it's the human interaction.
I love it.
That causes and can cause healing. Sister Katrina says, take ownership of your own health. From Sister Teasha, and quoting you. And Dr. Camilla Muhammad Harris up in New Jersey says, direct primary care doctors are important. I want to welcome Brother Jerome Muhammad from Columbus, Ohio. Good to see you on the line tonight, Jerome, and all of the folks out there in the great state of Ohio. But there is so much more that we could talk about. We're going to have to wrap up, and I'm going to ask you, Dr. Shabazz, what do you want us to take away from this discussion that we can use all across the viewing audience to help us become better and stronger?
Well, from a health standpoint, back to basics. We use this time as an opportunity to, get back into a pattern of what we know we need to do, the things that are good for us, that are loved ones for us, with our dietary pattern. We don't want to waste the benefits of the fast of Ramadan. We will get them, inshallah, from a spiritual perspective, but we don't want to waste them from a health perspective with having, unhealthy habits on either end of the day. And we want to make sure that as we continue those basics, keep looking, establish a relationship with at least a primary care, physician or nurse practitioner, or even if you choose to, use a naturopathic physician, you have to find a relationship, one that you trust, and you would hope that whatever that relationship is, if you develop problems that are really outside of their scope, that they can help to guide you in a way that is timely and appropriate for what's going on with you, and encourage others to do the same. Because what this pandemic showed us is that it really just uncovered or exposed what we already know. I mean, certain things you can't control. If you're old, old nowadays is different than what it used to be. If we know that, Methuselah lived,
969 years.
Right, almost 1,000 years, and Noah 600 something. These are things that I don't think are just, allegory. I think people used to live a lot longer than we do now, and we want to get back to that. But we have the conditions that we have. We have rebellion, that's the other thing that the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, because, I think I got mad one time at the mosque because, we start teaching and we can't stand doctors. And I'll just be sitting there like, but somebody fall out in here, they don't want a doctor there,
Right.
So, I tweeted, like, well, is there a place for doctors in the hereafter? Why did the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad want a hospital? But the essence of his point is that all disease is caused by rebellion. In the hereafter, there won't be any rebellion. And so we won't have a need for it. So, I could get into my gardening perhaps, or, maybe I'll have some other things that I do in the hereafter. But really, any health problem that we have on some level has at its root rebellion to some degree, and that might not have even been something you did. Maybe it was your parents or your parents' parents or something like that. But, we have to accept responsibility for that and do what we could do. Everything is not in our control, but there's a lot that is.
Yes, ma'am.
I love it.
That's the last word.
Yes.
And I thank you, Dr. Shabazz. Hang out with us. Don't go anywhere. Right. I'm going to turn it over now.
He reminded me, fountainmedonline.com is my medical practice website. If you want to sign up for the direct primary care waiting list, you could do so there. I need to add an area for what state people are in, so I have a sense of that. Yep. So
all right. We're ready to rock and roll and get this health in order and really turn away from rebellion back to obedience. That's why this holy month of Ramadan is so important. It's an opportunity for us to recalibrate our beings.
Yes, sir.
To focus once again on obedience and shun rebellion. To focus once again on love and shun hate. To focus once again on accord and agreement and shun disagreement, grudges, and bad feelings. So we need to turn now. Dr. Shabazz is giving us a holistic message, has given us a holistic message tonight that has been very, very uplifting to us. So we thank you, sis. Hang out with us. We want to make sure, Sheila, don't go anywhere because I know you're busy. You probably got a bike ride scheduled, but not at night. So hold on for a second. We want to make sure everybody.
Well, she might because she got that Peloton now, so she might go.
She Peloton. Oh, excuse me. But listen, everybody, I want to turn you over to my dear wife, the great Sister Teasha Muhammad. She'll tell you a little bit more about what we're doing here and how you can become an active member of the family at Nothing But the Truth.
All right. Okay, everyone. Once again, I want to thank you all for coming in and tuning in to another edition of Nothing But the Truth with Brother Jamil and Sister Teasha. We hope that you enjoyed yourself tonight. We are so thankful that you brought your spirit, your energy, your love to this platform. At this time, I want to thank all who have donated previously towards with a nice love donation towards our efforts to grow this platform. If you yourself are interested in helping us to further these works, grow even more, we would love for you to make a love donation to our Cash App. It's Cash App $BROWORKS. That's $BROWORKS. Any donations that are received, we use it directly to expand the platform. We're using it for the purchase of more equipment. Now we're working on the lighting. We do have the Rodecaster, and we thank you all for everyone who's donated to that. We have new microphones. How clear it is.
Yeah, and I got a microphone too because I had to wait until after you already had yours.
I had to make sure he got one too. I always want what I got, but I just anyway. So now we're gonna look to expand in our lighting because you see my light is really bright in my face. Back up a little bit. Advertising and travel. Nothing But the Truth has been on the road.
Yes, indeed, and we've got stories to tell too.
We do. Anyway, so if you're interested in making a love donation towards our efforts, again, you can Cash App that to $BROWORKS. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all social media platforms. All right. Thank you again for tuning in. Millie Rock, it's you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. You
All
have been great tonight, whether you have watched us from the West Coast. As we see, we had viewers tonight from the Bay Area and from Phoenix and Los Angeles on the line, and Boston's been with us. Amina, we saw you, Sister Amina P. We saw you down in Florida, Sister Angela, up in Detroit, Brother T. Farrow, all around the country.
Beautiful.
And of course, the whole family, not the whole family, but key members of the family that built number 12 into the top of the clock. We're very, very grateful for all of you there at home in Philadelphia. So, brothers and sisters, until the next time we see you, please don't do anything to anybody that you would not have them do unto you. Be cool. Don't hurt anybody. And Allah willing and the creek don't rise, we'll see you next Thursday right here at 8 o'clock on Nothing But the Truth with
Brother Jamil
and Sister Teasha. Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Alaikum.
Peace.